Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Today, my beloved brothers and sisters, we continue our series, Stories of Kings. Today, there was a king with all of his friends and his staff. They went up to a mountaintop. And there, again, I didn't say they're all good kings or bad kings, but they started to party and they slaughtered some sheep and lamb and stuff and started to started their fire so they could grill and eat and barbecue and all that good stuff and just enjoying it out in the mountaintop. They had some people playing music for them, and they started to drink their liquor, their alcohol. And they started to drink, and the king was drunk and just laughing and hanging with his friends, and his ministers were all drinking and laughing and whatever. And suddenly, just from the mountaintop, they heard a noise that went bing. And he said, "What was it?" And apparently it's a stone that just rolled all the way down from the mountaintop to the bottom. And they said, apparently it's a rock. And he said, "Throw something." And they took something, I think, like some bottle or something. They threw it. It just kept rolling and rolling, and all the way it hit the ground, and it just made that funny noise. And of course they're drunk and they hear that noise and they just exaggerate the noise. And, "Ha ha, did you hear that? Did you hear that? I wonder if we throw something bigger." And then they had something bigger and they just throw it because they're drunk and just throwing it, and it keeps rolling and rolling. By the way, it just hits the ground at the end and makes that funny noise. Let's try something bigger, bigger. And each time they're trying to roll something bigger. And the king is so drunk, and he says, "I wonder what would sound if we threw someone down." And he told his soldiers, and he looks around, and his minister is like right next to him. And he was so drunk, didn't even think. He says, "Just go ahead and roll my minister as he is alive, and just tie him up and throw him." And again, they're drunk, and whatever, the minister is like, "Oh, he's just joking." And the soldiers, they're not drunk. They're looking at the king. It's like, "Are you sure, king?" And the king was so drunk, they didn't even know what he's saying. He's like, "Yeah, tie him up and throw him and roll him. I want to hear what he sounds like when he hits the ground below." And this is the king's best friend. They grew up together. His minister is like his confidant, the closest person to him, his best friend. But he was so drunk, he didn't know what he's saying. So the soldier said, "Sure enough." And they tied him. The man is screaming, and they tied him up and took him. And the king is just laughing, and the people around him are just laughing because they're so drunk, not paying attention. And they take the minister and they roll him down the hill, and he's just screaming, screaming. And when he falls, he makes this very loud noise and screams. And the king and everybody else is just laughing as they're drunk, and they fall asleep. And then he wakes up having no idea of what happened or what he did at night. And he calls on the people and says, "Okay, where's my minister?" And they said, "You don't remember, do you?" He said, "Where's my minister?" They said, "Well, yesterday you wanted to find out what it sounds like when somebody rolls all the way down a cliff from this mountain, and you told us to tie him up." And I said that? They said, "Yes, you did." I said that? He said, "Yes, king, you did." So the king looked at them, and he started to cry from his heart, because this is his best friend and his best confidant and the closest friend that he had. And he said, "رب كلمة قالت لصاحبها دعني. رب كلمة قالت لصاحبها دعني." In Arabic, he said a word of wisdom, and that word of wisdom is, sometimes a word screams to the person and says, "Please do not say me." A word that you're about to utter, you're about to say, screams to you and says, "Please, please do not say me. Do not use me. I'm not the word that you want to use right now. You're angry, you're drunk, or whatever. But if you use me, there's no way of taking me back. Do not use me." رب كلمة قالت لصاحبها دعني. The moral of the story, my brothers and sisters, is that sometimes when we are angry, we're upset, we might say something to our wife, to our husband, to our child, to our co-worker, to our friend, to someone that we normally love so much and has been so close and truly loves us and cares about us. We might say a word, and that word is, before you say it, the word is like, "Please do not say me," because you have no idea how much damage you're going to create by using that one word. If you let me go, if you just release me, that word says to you, if you release me, there's no going back. You're going to destroy your friendship, your relationship, your family, your marriage. The moral of the story, if you're a true Muslim, a true faithful person, count the words and hold the words. At any time of anger, you hold your words. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "Prophet of Allah, awsini, I want an advice that nobody else can give me that advice." The Prophet ﷺ said, "La taghdab, don't get angry. Really? Okay, well, give me another advice, a second one. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تغضب. Said, okay, give me a third advice, Prophet of Allah. And the third advice the Prophet ﷺ gave him is لا تغضب. What does لا تغضب means? Do not get angry. Well, guess what? That hadith does not mean do not get angry, because as human beings, we normally do get angry. But it means when you get angry, do not act upon it. If your son does something, your wife does something, your husband does something, your friend does something, hit the brakes for a moment. Just hit the brakes. You don't have to act immediately. Do not act immediately. Just take a moment. That's why part of discipline, and a lot of people misunderstand it, is when your child does something wrong, you put them and give them a timeout. A timeout, by the way, is not the punishment. It's not the discipline. It's not. It basically means for the next 5 minutes, I need to relax. And I, as the parent, because I don't want to do something wrong that I'm going to regret. And I want you to think of what you did. So a timeout is basically for the next 5 minutes, I need you to calm down and I need to calm down. So I make the right decision. And that is what the moral of the story is think before you act. Think before you throw that word, before you destroy your community, before you destroy your marriage, before. Reminds me, my brothers and sisters, of another story. And we will continue that in our next episode.